On this episode of Fly Fishing Unfiltered, we're covering Searun Cutthroat Trout, where to fish, what gear and flies to use, and the tactics to catch trophies. Hey everyone, David, Northwest Fly Fishing Outfitters, coming to you with another Fly Fishing Unfiltered. And once again, we're here with the Trout Council, although we're missing someone.
We're missing somebody. Spencer's giving a lesson on casting out in the parking lot. He might pop in. Who knows?
Who knows?
But if we have a question that needs answering,
we'll run out into the parking lot and get that question answered. Today I'm super excited though, again, to have Zach and Joseph here, and we've been getting a lot of questions on Searun Cutthroat Trout. And so today we're going to be highlighting Searun Cutthroat in estuaries, and so I've got some of our resident experts here, and we're going to break this down for y'all.
Yeah.
Well, it's not very often that I sit here and I admit that I know absolutely nothing about a topic, but today is one of those days where I'm going to say I know absolutely nothing about Searun Cutthroat Trout. It's something that I've talked about going and doing for some time, so I'm really excited to get into this with both of you. So I'd first like to talk about what is a Searun cutthroat. So Joseph, why don't you hit what a Searun cutthroat trout is?
Yeah, I mean, Searun cutthroat is pretty much just like it sounds. It's a cutthroat trout that's gone to the ocean in some degree, or at least to salt water. It's a popular and much loved fish, especially in the fall, but probably also a misunderstood fish. They're not technically anadromous the way that a steelhead or a salmon is. They're going into estuary systems, maybe a mile, 2 miles away from their natal stream, but that's about as far as they're going. And their main purpose to do that is to find food.
Okay.
So a lot of our coastal streams don't have a ton of food. You'll find smaller resident cutthroat trout. There's not a lot of food for them to compete for, so they head downstream into the estuary where there's things like shrimp and crustaceans that they can feed on. And once they start to get a little bit larger, then they have a choice in their life cycle, whether they want to stay in freshwater and eat fish and crustaceans and things that they're now large enough to eat, or if they want to continue to migrate out. And so you usually see Searun cutthroat migrate out just after they spawn in the spring, same time as steelhead and rainbow trout. And then typically they come back to their natal streams when we get the first big rains in September, October.
Okay.
So a lot of people focus on the fish just in that second time frame. But actually it's a great fishery all summer long, and it's actually one of the most low pressure fisheries in Oregon during the summertime. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today.
And so we're not worried about water temps when we're talking Searun cutthroat. If we're talking estuaries, it's pretty constant temperature. A big question that I personally have is, a cutthroat and a Searun cutthroat, are they related or are they different species?
They're the same species. They're genetically identical to each other. The only thing that's different between a resident fish and a Searun fish is the Searun fish has gone to the ocean. And because some of those larger fish that go to the ocean will then residentialize again, it can be sort of hard to tell whether it's a Searun or not. Typically, if it's above 13, 14 inches, that's a Searun fish. If it's fresh, you'll know it'll be silvery, just like a steelhead. And if it's been there for a while, it'll be more of a deep yellow color. But either way, you can really tell if a fish has been to the ocean more based on its size. Okay.
And so for you guys, what is the main reason why you like to chase Searun cutthroat trout?
they're bitey.
They're bitey?
They're bitey.
Okay.
They're fun. They're just down. They're a forgiving fish.
They're down.
And I like fish that are down. I fish for so many species that are just not down, and these ones typically are.
Yeah. And when you say down, you mean that they're active feeders,
they're
like they're aggressive?
Yeah. They like to eat. They will like to eat the flies that I throw at them, and I appreciate that. And so I'm spreading the love of them.
Okay. And how about you, Joseph? Why do you like to chase Searun?
I agree. I think for me it's a hybrid between the fact that they are a very bitey fish, but they're also kind of hard to find.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you find them, they're going to eat, which is really cool, right? If the fish is there, it's going to show itself to you. But it might not be there, right? So you have to work, you have to move around quite a bit. You're going to see a lot of different areas, a lot of different parts of the stream, because you really need to move around a lot to find the fish. If you're in a hole for half an hour and you haven't seen a sign of life, keep moving. Don't work every little stretch, every little bit. Keep moving around until you start to find fish, because they are very migratory. They don't need a whole lot of rain to motivate them to move around. They'll move around with temperature, they'll move around with food availability. So they're a fish that you sort of have to chase down, but once you do, like Zach said, they are on it. Yeah.
So are they like a schooling fish? If you find one, you're going to find multiples. They're typically not kind of an isolated fish.
Grouping at the very least.
Grouping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that's very cool, and another reason why I like to go for them is that it's just, I'm always fascinated with things that I don't know. I find just anything I don't know is completely fascinating, and the ocean is one of those.
Yeah.
And I'm just dabbling my way down there.
Yeah.
I don't do hardly any salt, if any, and this is kind of just like I'll just like these fish, I'll just venture out just a little bit into the salt. Right? And yeah, so it's just getting a taste for bigger and better things to come.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited to really get into this today. It sounds like exactly the species that I need to chase this year, and hopefully you listeners will take this opportunity to learn from these guys and get out there, chase a new fish. Again, our river temps are starting to warm up. Clackamas is 67 degrees, I think.
Yep, it's down.
So we really need to be giving our local fish some time to relax and not be pressured by us. This provides us a prime opportunity, I think, to still go out there and chase what we love, which is trout, steelhead, carp, and bass, but do it ethically and do it in a way that we can feel good. So I'm excited to get into some of the information moving forward. All right, well, you guys officially have me all kinds of excited about Searun Cutthroat and chasing a species that I've long anticipated doing and just never gotten around to doing. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys this year. By the way, Trout Council, they are out there actively guiding these rivers. So I want to do a plug for you guys. You guys are awesome. The content that you bring to the table, the advice you give our subscribers and listeners is fantastic. You guys all need to support them. If you really want to learn these rivers, it's great subscribing to this YouTube channel, but if you really want to learn this stuff, get out with these guys. These guys are killer. They're excellent anglers, and they're here to help you. So again, I'm officially excited. And it takes a lot to get me excited.
Totally.
Not really.
That's not.
My 10th cup of coffee, and I'm a little wired.
Yeah,
but
you're usually kind of subdued.
What's that?
You're subdued.
I'm a very
Such a
subdued
chill
person.
guy.
Yeah.
Hard to read.
So the big question this time of year, this is the month of July. For those of you who are going to watch this video later on, the month of July. I've heard streams, I've heard rivers, I've heard estuaries, I've heard you got to wait for rain. You don't got to wait for rain in the month of July. The first thing I want to know is what kind of water are we fishing, and then I'm going to ask each of you maybe one or two streams that you really love fishing if streams are kind of the game right now. So one of you jump in.
Well, as you mentioned, David, it's getting kind of warm on some of our streams.
Yeah.
So the coastal streams are no different.
Yeah.
Up higher in the freshwater sections, they are getting a little warm. In the mornings, you can fish them when the water temperature is still low. You might find fish that have been to the ocean, but they won't have been to the ocean this year.
Yeah.
If you want to fish for a fresh Searun Cutthroat right now, is the estuary is the place to do that. It's going to be a higher volume fishery this time of year because the fish are smaller. They're stacked up there. They're sort of waiting to come back. If you are looking to fish for sea runs as they're coming in, that's going to be more when we start to see rains come in the September-October timeframe, and that's when you can start to follow them upstream and fish with them as they go upstream. By the time they start moving upstream in that September-October timeframe before trout season closes, you can catch them as high up as the deadlines on most streams.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is we don't need to wait for a first rain if we're fishing
we don't.
In the estuaries.
Exactly, yeah. So those estuary systems, the tidally influenced systems, those are fishing well pretty much all summer long. And that's the great thing about sea runs too, right, is that once you get to August, September, they really want that rain to come, and maybe it doesn't. So they stack up there, and there's some big fish that have nowhere else to go, and you can have a trout farm style day out there with some big fish. Yeah.
All right.
So Matt, I'm going to apologize to you. You know who you are. I gave you a little bit of wrong information saying you got to wait for the rains. It sounds like more if we're fishing higher up in the streams and the rivers. If you're prepared to go fish the estuaries, it sounds like now is an optimal time to start going and exploring these estuaries. So I'm excited to do this. I have a big question before I get into some locations for you guys. And again, treat me like I'm a high schooler. What is an estuary? What's it look like? Does it look like a river? Is it just a wide area where a river flows into the ocean? What is an estuary?
Yeah, so an estuary is a tidally influenced section of a freshwater system. Not every single stream or creek has like a recognizable or fishable estuary.
Okay.
But the majority of the Tillamook Bay tributaries do.
Okay.
The Nehalem does, the Nestucca, the Siletz. These are all places that have estuary systems, and you can fish them either on foot if you go find public access, whether it's a boat ramp or something like that. Just sort of hike in. Make sure you rinse your gear off afterwards because it is pretty brackish water.
We're going to definitely cover some of that.
And if you really, really, really want to target sea runs in the estuary, the best way to do it is in some sort of floating device. Make sure you don't use a float tube. There's a lot of junk underwater. It can be kind of dangerous when the tides are coming in and out. But I've seen people out there having a great day on a stand-up paddleboard. And it's sort of bass-style fishing, where you're casting into structure, you're casting into the banks. You're looking for deep undercuts, you're looking for overhangs, any kind of cover where a fish can hang out. And then you're casting streamers into there, stripping pretty fast, and they're aggressive fish, so they'll chase it down.
Fantastic.
I really love the idea of putting in at one boat ramp, going on a trip, taking out at the same boat ramp. Love that idea.
That's coming from the guy who just gets tired of fighting the Deschutes wind right here.
Absolutely.
Ride the tides, let nature do the work for you.
Yeah, dude.
That's fantastic.
Up, cowabunga. Let's do this.
So, estuaries. Let's talk a little bit. We're going to do another video when Spencer's here. He loves fishing Searun Cutthroat too. So let's talk a little bit. Where are your favorite locations this time of year? If it is a tidally influenced river, give the subscribers a couple of your locations.
Couple hints. I really like the Siletz and the Kilchis. And there's some pretty cool floats in there, some pretty interesting things. And come out with us, check it out. Also, just go explore. I'm always going to say that. Just go find water and fish it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I like the Trask a lot, but if you the Tillamook Bay, the way it's set up, there are a lot of these places where you access maybe the Trask or the Wilson. There's little cuts where you can get through to the Tillamook River or to the Kilchis River. Get out a map, take a look, and get creative, because a lot of this water is moving fairly slowly. Even if the tide is going in or out, you can battle it. You can row against it. It's not difficult. So there's a lot of cool places down in that area to check out. I also really enjoy the Nestucca River and the Tidewater section there. It's just really beautiful. A lot of sand dunes. More popular with salmon anglers. But
this is kind of before all that starts, which is what's nice about it, right?
Exactly. That's what is great about this time of year.
And to our Washington anglers, we're not trying to ignore you up north. We love you guys up there. We're just maybe not as expert on some of the tidal waters. We do know some of the streams and rivers that will hold sea runs once that moves in. So when we start covering the streams and the rivers, we're going to touch on that. Joseph, you talked earlier before we started filming this. One of the things that you especially love about getting out and doing sea run in the estuaries, and there's sometimes some wildlife that you love to see, and so if you can share that. In our lakes video, you guys talked about piranha, right? The movie Piranha, and you said you were deathly afraid of lakes. I'm deathly afraid of oceans, honestly, because of 100%. Sharks. And I've seen videos of sea lions nabbing little children off of docks. So what kind of wildlife
can we...
You're
also a CEO of several businesses. I mean, the ocean has not been kind to them lately.
That's true.
So,
First of all, what a helpful sea lion.
Jeez.
But every year we do see, 5 or 6 great white sharks. So you do need to worry. Your fears aren't unfounded. You're probably going to die out there.
Thank you.
But what I
that's how we keep the crowds down, just so you know.
One of my favorite things is once the salmon do start to show up a little bit, you'll have seals follow the tide in. It's kind of when you know your day is over, right? You're floating down, intercepting the fish as they're coming in with the tide that time of year. You'll see the seals coming up, just sort of following them like a dragnet. And they're adorable, right? They're just like big underwater dogs. They'll pop their heads up just a few feet from you. I definitely have heard horror stories from people about getting a fish taken off their line and getting dragged out into the middle of the bay. So if a seal grabs a fish off your line, maybe cut it. But they're it's just great to just hang out in a river that you can spit across in certain places with wildlife like that. It's really cool. Very intimate experience.
Well, I love that. And Zach, that's probably very familiar for you being from Alaska. You probably see things like that all the time. You're not afraid of any oceans.
Last time I fished the Kenai, I checked. I was 47 miles from the salt. I had a seal come up on me up that high. And I saw it coming way down the river, and it was kind of, it was twilight. And I was like, damn, the beavers are big here. And it came up, I was like, oh, good God, that's a seal.
That's
and
awesome.
I was not even close to the ocean, so that was pretty cool.
Excellent.
Love that. Always fun stuff to see. It's a good change of pace.
Yeah.
Like I've always really liked visiting a beach town, but since I don't fish a lot of salt, like I don't get that out of my system.
Yeah.
So this is a really good way to do both. Camp on the beach, get a Airbnb, go get some chowder, and then go get some sea runs, man. That's a great day.
Yeah, well, I love that. Next, we're going to be getting into some gear and what people need to gear up. We are going to also talk about just some water vessels and that, so excited to get into that with you guys.
Awesome.
All right, well, with each section, I get a little more excited about Searun Cutthroat Trout, and so next we're going to jump into the gear that we need for Searun Cutthroat. Specifically, let's talk right now estuaries, since this is season, July and August, we're going to be chasing sea runs in the estuaries. So walk me through a few different things here. I want to know what rods, what weight rods, what lines we're fishing. Do reels matter? Again, as a fly shop, we really want to be giving people, it's called Fly Fishing Unfiltered, because we want to be giving them the honest truth about fly fishing. Do they need specialized saltwater reels? What kind of water vessels are we responsibly out in a tidal situation? And then I think something that's really critical to talk about is how do we take care of our gear when we're fishing saltwater, because it's not as friendly, from what I understand, as maybe some of our streams. So why don't you guys jump into, Zach, why don't you jump into rod, weight, length, all that?
What another amazing thing about this fishery is that you don't need anything special.
Okay.
What you need, you probably already got. We're talking 5 weights, 6 weights, floating line, and you're gonna want some intermediates as well, right? We're gonna be stripping a lot of streamers. You don't need anything special with reels. Salt can kind of mess things up, and none of us take care of our gear. But if we were going to, which I will now. Don't do what Donnie does. Do what we say, not as we do. And because that is important, because the salt will tear up some things. You're always going to want to clean things, especially going to a different system. I like to give my stuff a hose down just for the safety of the environment too.
Sure.
So if I go to a different river system, I kind of wash off my waders, my boots, my rods, my reels, and pretend that does something. But I like to think it does.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think it's stuff that we already have, right? Basically, if you're watching this, you probably have a 9 foot.
So we're not $1,000 into getting out there and exploring.
No, we're good.
No, you can go figure this out and explore your first few times with just the 9 foot 5 what you have and your floating line.
Okay.
And like about a 9 to 11 foot leader.
Okay.
I like 5X or 6X. Or I'm sorry, 5X or 4X.
Okay.
Don't use 6X. Typically 4X in an estuary system is just fine. It's a little murkier, the water out there. So it's stuff that you already have. If you watched our last lake video and you have an intermediate line, that might be the only specialty line you really want.
Okay.
When the tide is really coming in or ripping out, it is nice to have a line that will sink a little bit more. But that said, if you're in a flotation device of some kind and you're moving, you can move with your fly. And that's really helpful for those presentations into the bank.
Okay.
Where you're kind of moving at the same pace, and so it's allowed to sink a little bit before you're stripping it in. But life will be much easier with an intermediate line as well as your floating line.
So would you say that's the primary line? If someone's going out for the very first time and they're really wanting the best opportunity to get into Searun Cutthroat Trout in an estuary, would you guys recommend the intermediate line first and a floating line second?
I think I would probably go with a floating line first.
Okay.
Because there are some sections of the estuary where things get really skinny. There's a lot of brush. There's a lot of stuff around that you can get hooked on.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to use my intermediate line there necessarily.
Okay.
As you get closer to the ocean, as the water gets bigger, deeper, a little bit faster when the tides are coming in and out, that's where I tend to use my intermediate line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk, this is something we haven't talked a lot about in any of our videos yet. Let's talk about eyewear. I love my sunglasses. I love my polarized glasses. I got lots of them for different types of situations. So we got a couple of lenses out here, and walk me through our polarized glasses. Is this a visual game? Is this Are we just stripping and feeling this and setting the hook, or can we visually see the fish, and should we have some polarized glasses to help us with that?
Yeah, I think certainly you're going to see some chases, especially if you're using a floating line. One of the really cool things about this fishery is the fish will blow up on your reverse spider or whatever it might be, your streamer, almost as if it's a dry, like the second it hits the water. If they're there, they'll come out and eat it. So you'll definitely see quite a bit. You might see some fish cruising in shallower water, especially as the tide is going out. See fish cruising around on shallower weed beds and on sandy bars. So always good to have polarized glasses, and then of course it protects your eyes when you're casting streamers out there on a windy day.
That's true. Keep that thing on me. Like, if there's a fish, I want to see it.
100%.
Yeah.
Anytime. And so, and there's a lot of different light situations, like everywhere, but particularly at the coast, where we deal with a lot of like flat light, a lot of low light at times, and so definitely play around with, especially if you got a few pairs of glasses. Don't keep getting the same thing. Get some different tools for the job. You're gonna thank yourself later for sure.
And one thing that I would say, having a lot of sunglasses, get the glass. Don't skimp on this.
100%.
This is not exactly the friendliest environment between sand and salt in the air. It will wear out any polycarbonates. So definitely think about that. Make an investment in those glasses. And then the last question I have, because I really love to be in short sleeves and shorts, and just what about the rest of the gear? I mean, if we're in flotation devices of some sort, are we typically finding the fact that we need to have jackets, layering, waders, or can we go out there feeling like we're out in Mexico on a beach somewhere?
Always be prepared. But always be badass, man. Do what you want, but bring the other stuff with you. I just got done hanging out with my cousin, who's a really big dermatologist, and it's the first time he's seen me since I've been a fishing guide. And he gave me some. So wear your sunscreen. Where, especially out there, you can't see a lot of the UV damage because of all the clouds, or you don't really notice because of the wind, and you can get cooked. So definitely still sun protection. Be careful with that.
You're exposed out there. You're between sand dunes, right? There's not a lot of trees, not a lot to protect you, especially as you get closer to the head of tide. Like, you're going to get big, wide water. There's just nothing, right? So definitely wear your sunscreen, long sleeves. I think having layers is just always smart at the Oregon coast. You never know what you're going to run into. I've had days where I've started my sea run day at 10 in the morning because that's when the tide is lining up. It's 70 degrees already. The sun is out in full strength, and I'm thinking I'm never going to need anything but a t-shirt. And then by the time 5 o'clock rolls around, it's windy, it's cloudy, it's cold, everything smells like cow shit, and you regret your decisions, right? So bring a sweatshirt along for sure. But it's not going to be super intense fishing. It's not like going and fishing in wintertime on the Deschutes. As for your waders question, if I'm fishing in a flotation device out in the estuary, my waders don't go on because I'm not getting out of that boat, and if I fall in, I'm an anchor. So I'd rather not have them on.
So this isn't like an episode of Deadliest Catch. I'm not out there in swells and
just like that.
It's just like that. See, we're just trying to scare you guys. All right, and then last thing on gear in the estuaries. Tell me, we talked a little bit about no float tubes, no inner tubes, but what is an ideal type of water vessel for people to go out there in the estuaries and chase this species?
I like small rafts. I'm a rafty guy. I'm sure drift boats would be pretty nice, but something you can stand up, you can cast. Maybe something with a casting, some thigh lock, something like that, so you can lean into the wind a little bit. But I like something with a firm floor that floats. It's pretty much all I care about.
Yeah, you're going to be casting a lot, so something you can stand up in is pretty clutch. Stand-up paddleboard is probably the most bare bones you can go. Small raft is great. You can use a drift boat for certain sections of it, but if you want to push up a little bit higher where other people aren't getting, that's where having that smaller raft really comes in handy. I do know people who go out there with a motor so that they're not beholden to the tides necessarily. They can just go where they want. I don't like to do that because I think just everything out at the estuary is a motor wrecker, and I know I'm going to hit something. So I'd rather just go out there and wait for the tides to come in and out. Seems to be the best fishing anyway. Go with the flow. Follow the fish.
Okay, that's fantastic. So this has been a great segment on the gear, guys. Really appreciate it. And again, what I appreciate about this Trout Council and ultimately about our fly shop is that we're just brutally honest with people, that we're not here to sell you guys gear. We want you to get out there and chase every species of fish that is on this planet, and if you've got the gear, we're going to tell you got the gear. So sounds like nothing really out of the ordinary, but please do take care of your gear. As much as we do love to sell you new gear, you can take care of your gear. You can make it last a lot longer. I think probably all of us are really bad about it. Heck, I own a heating and air conditioning business, and you know when last time I changed my furnace filter was? This is a PSA. You're supposed to change them like every 6 months when you got dogs. I think it's been about 2 years. So
Yes.
I kind of treat my fly fishing gear the same way, unfortunately. So if you've got this gear and you're getting out into the saltwater, just be responsible with it. Wash it off. It doesn't take a whole lot of extra time to wash that saltwater off. So just take that extra step and make that gear last a lot longer. So next, guys, we're going to jump into flies. We're going to talk on tactics of flies. What are these fish feeding on? And I'm excited to get into that with you.
Great.
All right, so we've covered a lot of the information, but now it's time to get into the meat and potatoes. You like how we hold everything back to the end of our videos, right? But now is the meat and potatoes section. So we've covered why sea runs, we've covered the type of gear that we need for Searun Cutthroat Trout, and now we're going to talk about the flies in estuaries specifically. This is not streams. Again, we'll be releasing some video content on stream fishing as we get closer to the fall months. But let's talk about the flies. Let's talk about the presentations. Let's talk about in the estuaries, what kind of structure are we looking for? You said earlier we're casting to banks. So let's jump into the flies and I'm going to ask you a few questions. So tell me what your favorite flies are.
Well, I'm gonna go. We don't have a name for this, but our good friend David, who ties for our shop, he ties these shrimpy little streamers that I just love. They look like massive soft hackles, and they're just super fun. I love everything about them. Tied my first one today, and he showed me how to do it. So I'm all about these. What are these things eating out there? They're eating shrimp. They're eating crustaceans.
They're eating a lot of shrimp. They're eating a lot like miniature crawdads. Crustaceans, other small fish, things like that. So bait fish patterns will work. A lot of your standard coho flies will actually work pretty well.
Okay.
But two flies that are very specifically created for sea runs. The first one, created right here in Oregon on the Alsea River, is called the Borden Special. That's killer. And then here we've got the reverse spider. So the reverse spider has a feature, this reverse soft hackle here. You can tie pretty much any like Atlantic salmon pattern that you enjoy, any small streamer, like classic old small streamer. If you tie that reverse hackle onto the top of it, it becomes a very effective sea run fly.
Okay.
And I think what that is replicating for them is a miniature crawdad. The way that it moves, it has this sort of pulsing movement underwater.
Like it's fleeing.
Totally.
Okay.
It's a fleeing crawdad essentially, yeah. And the really, really cool thing about fishing estuaries for Searun Cutthroat is we're doing one thing and one thing only, and that's we're just casting and stripping streamers.
Okay.
There are a few schools of thought on how quickly and what kind of retrieve.
Okay.
Vary it up. The fish in different systems are going to look different. The tides are moving in and out. They're going to be moving at different speeds, so you're going to have to vary your retrieve speed. I know that, especially up in Washington, once coho show up, everybody really likes to strip their streamers really fast, because that puts you in better range to maybe get some coho as a bycatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from people who angle up there quite a bit for these fish, you cannot strip too fast for a Searun Cutthroat. If they want that fly, they're going to come get it.
Okay. Now, streamers, typically, you're not in lakes and rivers. We're usually fishing those 100% subsurface. But you guys did talk earlier that dry lines is an option. So you're still fishing these flies even with dry lines?
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of weight to these guys. They're barely subsurface.
Yeah, and if you need to get a little bit deeper on that presentation, you can tie a little bit of weight into your reverse spider, right?
Okay.
Just use a little bit more wire, or even use a bead in there and cover it up. But for the most part, you're really just using the weight of the water, getting the fly wet. And actually what that ends up doing for you is your first few retrieves are going to be right on top of the water column. And the next few are going to be like an inch down. And then, right, so you're covering that first like 6 to 12 inches of the water column, which is really when Searun Cutthroat are feeling active on like a nice cloudy day when they feel safe from predators above, that's where they really want to feed. And so even if they're hanging out lower, that's where they're going to come up and get it.
Okay, I want to clarify that. So depth of water.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the flies and what they're eating in the estuaries. So what depth are you saying is kind of the optimal depth this time of year?
I think again that's going to really depend on the day, the conditions, and the section of stream that you're on. But you're going to have to vary it up, figure it out. If you do find that they're eating on that floating line presentation, it means they're eating in the top of the water column.
And that could be 6 to 12 inches, you said.
Could be 6 to 12 inches.
Okay.
It may be 18. If it is a warmer day, if you've got the sun out high, if you've got birds circling, those fish are going to be down, right?
Okay.
So you got to get down a little bit deeper for them. But still, we're not talking about more than a couple feet.
Okay, excellent. Well, we've got a special guest back with us on the Northwest Trout Council. No, he did not get voted off the council. He is definitely an important part of the Trout Council. So you were just out there doing some casting lessons, and you officially can cast. So we're welcoming you back to the Trout Council, Spencer.
I've graduated.
Yeah, excellent.
It's a big name.
So super excited. We covered the flies. Now it's time to cover where we're fishing these flies. What type of water are we looking for in the estuary? Are we looking for structure? We touched a little bit on depth of water. So if you guys can really break this down for our subscribers, what are we looking for? What kind of water are we fishing? Spencer?
Well, a lot of water actually. Estuary fishing is kind of cool. What makes it unique in a way is that you really fish off the tide. So the high tide is a big thing. If there's structures around, which you can see the structure or depressions by looking at the low tide, you can see where to fish. And what I mean by a lot of different water is there will be some spots that have like a current to it coming from the tributaries. There'll be some spots that almost look like back eddies, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
And then there will be a little bit of like flow coming from the ocean into that little estuary area. So there's a couple different things. Reading water is a nice skill to have for this. But what makes it convenient is an estuary is right where the ocean meets a lot of those tributaries, so you don't have to walk very far when you're there. You're just at the estuary. So that's kind of a pro thing right there, pro tip.
So I know like up in the Puget Sound where they're working a lot of kind of similar water, I think. They're using motorized vessels and they're powering back and forth and they're finding some structure. So like trees underneath the surface. Are you guys finding the Searun cutthroats around structure like this? What depth of water do you guys prefer to fish?
Yeah, structure is good for sure. Like Spencer said, pockets, right, holes, depth that you're going to see more at low tide, but then at high tide they're going to fill in. A lot of the estuary systems down around Tillamook Bay, you'll see these levees and dikes built around, right? And a lot of those have old floodgates, just sort of ancient relics of other times built into them. If you can look for that kind of stuff, like an old rusty floodgate or under bridges, right, places where things just tend to get a little bit more fishy. Searuns tend to really like those areas. In terms of depth, it really depends on the type of day. If it's a sunny day, you're going to probably want to get a little lower. If it's a cloudy day, if you've got a little bit of cover, you're probably going to get them in the first 6 to 12 inches of the water column. They're a very aggressive fish. Even if they're hanging out down low, they're going to feed up high.
And let's talk retrieves on these flies. These are soft hackles, they're streamers. What kind of retrieves are we really looking for in this type of water?
We vary them up, I would say. At least I do at time to time. Similar to any trout or bass, you kind of just play with the retrieve until you crack the code, is what we like to say. But a lot of the times those short kind of pulsy strips, think like 3-4 inch strips, kind of mimicking like a little shrimp pattern or a baby octopus or something kind of swimming around in that ocean. That's a really good way to do it. They are, like Joseph said, fairly aggressive, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but there are times where you can get pretty fast on the retrieve, and they'll smoke that. So that's always fun. I mean, you obviously have done that before.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about the people who fish for Searuns up at the Sound, who always want to strip fast because they want a chance to catch a coho. So that's nice bycatch. And then we were saying earlier that cutthroat, really you can't strip it too fast, right? They're gonna chase it down. Very aggressive fish. And the whole reason they're in that estuary is to find food. So you're fulfilling their journey out there. So
they're pretty cool fish.
So is it like bass where we're going to do maybe 3 strips and they take it on the pause, or is it more like as you're stripping they come up and grab the fly?
I tend to get them on the strip, mid-strip. You'll really feel it, and it kind of feels like stripping into a log. Yeah, they're strong
And
fish.
in these estuaries, do we have a lot of like channels, like the main channel? Do they tend to school up or group up near kind of the drop-offs, or is it literally just you got to go crack that code?
I mean, I've kind of found them in a lot of different places. I think it goes back to what Joseph was stating. It depends on the day a lot of the time. Okay. But one thing I will say is they are a very schooly critter.
Yeah.
So if you find one, there's probably 10 more.
Okay.
If you're not finding them, keep moving. I really think the importance of covering water for these fish are more important than most species, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
okay.
Agreed.
Any other tips that you guys can give to our subscribers?
Go fishing as much as you can.
Outside of going fishing as much as you can.
You mean about the Searun Cutthroats?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just in general, any other tactics that you guys are using that you've had success with?
Yeah, I mean, this is great fishery because you can go out and do it yourself. But I will say, if you want to have the best sea run day of your life, go out with somebody, whether it's a guide or a friend.
Sure.
Take turns on the oars, take turns just casting. If you can move with the tidal flows, it really, really helps you out, right? Because the tide is going to move at different paces at different points in the tide, right? Mm-hmm. Certain times it's going to get a little stronger than you want it to be if you're just anchoring up and stripping.
Okay.
So being able to move with that really, really helps your presentation.
Okay.
I found that casting into the shore, right, into the banks, and stripping while you're moving with the tide direction, right, the direction of the tide, is the most effective because you're getting sort of that S curve that fish really, really like. Almost like when you're, when you're trolling on still water and the wind hits you and you turn a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
That's almost always when you get a bite, right? So, speaking of which, trolling can work as well. If you want to fish those deeper channels out in the middle, if it's getting a little too fast for you and you want to control your own speed and you're the only one out there, then you control.
Okay.
I've actually like back road flies before, like a plug in a way. I've like back road flies down as the tide's going back out. I've back rode them down, so it's pretty lethal take.
It really is. It's almost like you're swinging them on the intermediate line, and so you're just sort of holding yourself back as the current swings it out below you, and you just float a couple of feet, and it's very deadly.
If I can add to this real quick, the ways to fish for them though is not just streamers. You can get some pretty nice sea runs on top. So
even in the estuaries.
Yeah, the day isn't going to be as productive, but it's cool to watch a freaking blueback blow up on a topwater fly. It is more productive in tributaries, I'm not going to lie, but it can be done.
Blueback, that's the first I've heard anyone so far in this video talk about a blueback. So are there any other nicknames that you guys know for Searun Cutthroat? So when
Steve.
What's that?
Steve.
Yeah. Huh, okay. No, just kidding. All right, thanks.
Bluebacks is the only one I've heard.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of them some coastals call them coasties, whatever. Some guys call them half pounders, and that's, I think, a really it gets confusing because the Rogue is known for half pounders more. Grand Ron's known for half pounders more.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys call them that because they can become like half pound, 2 pound fish.
Yeah.
Like I've caught sea runs that are almost 22 plus inches in the estuaries, and it's a big fish actually. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
I was doing a little bit of research for this. As I told the subscribers, I've never fished for Searun Cutthroat. So the Washington state record is like a 5 pound Searun Cutthroat. And so there are some big ass fish in these systems, and that's definitely the allure, I think.
Oh, dude, I've been broken off on 7 weights fishing for coho on these fish before. It's like, what?
Yeah, pound for pound, they fight harder than just about any fish that we fish for.
Yeah.
And
I mean, honestly, any fish that's going out to the ocean and coming back, or even if sea runs aren't necessarily going all the way out into the ocean like a salmon or a steelhead, it's a hostile environment.
Absolutely.
They're trying to escape all kinds of different things eating them while they're trying to eat. So we know that generally speaking, when fish are doing that, it just means they're going to be that much stronger. And
when they hit the salt, they become a different species. 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's awesome. I really appreciate you guys breaking down the gear. I really appreciate you breaking down the flies and the tactics. I'm going to turn to each one of you and ask you any last tidbit of information that you have that you want to share with our subscribers. So Joseph, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this one's kind of random, but one thing I find with sea runs more than any other fish I've caught is they will chase each other once they're hooked. You notice this, Spencer? They do almost like a mirroring.
Very bassy.
Yeah, it's very strange, right? They do sort of like this mirroring routine where you'll have a fish that's struggling against the line and a fish will just follow it. I've actually almost netted 2 fish at once.
Oh, really?
And just hooked the one because they were coming right up. But speaking of netting, netting a Searun Cutthroat is tough.
Okay.
They are really wily. They will go around it. They'll go over it. They will actually go under and then jump over because they know they can break you off around the handle.
Okay.
Like these are tough. Yeah, they're tough
I
fish. They're
actually
energetic.
refer to their fight kind of like a coho fight.
Uh-huh.
Like they roll, they jump,
It's
they
mayhem.
do everything they can to get off the line, and they know what to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating.
And they will succeed.
Oh yes,
plenty
a lot.
of times.
A lot.
Plenty of times. So if you lose them, don't feel bad. Just get out there and throw another cast.
I completely forgot about the fights. Honestly, that's a good
It's so
tip.
funny
That's a
to
very
watch.
good tip.
Yeah.
Definitely be prepared for that. They have like we were saying, anything that dabbles and dips its toe into the ocean is tough. They're trout that grew up in Detroit. You know what I mean? So be ready for them.
Yeah. Zach, how about you? Any other words of wisdom?
I think that's it. I'm always gonna say like, get weird, explore, get
weird.
like even. I'm from Alaska, so now I haven't totally done this, but little tiny streams like in Alaska, there are just like the tiniest places that you would not think a ton of salmon are gonna run up, and they do, especially those incoming tides, those higher tides. Like, get weird and go walk around. Explore. Yeah, just get your feet dirty. It can be weird with a lot of bushwhacking and private property, but we don't care about that.
It takes
we don't
work.
respect that around
It
here.
takes work. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Get sweat equity.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Spencer, how about you? Any other tips?
Be patient. It can be a very frustrating game. So one thing I do want to kind of just grind home on this is like, when it's a good day, it's a really good day. When it's slow, it can be very slow. These fish are a really unique species. Like we know very little about the Searun Cutthroat, and they migrate to the ocean for a little bit. They stay out there for a few months, come back. But this is not a super numbers-oriented fishery. Like I said, they're a schooly critter, so when you find them, you'll find a lot for the day. But you need to move a lot. Be very patient, cover a ton of water. When you find them, grind them. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And we did have one question that was asked by Gabe before he had to leave the shop today, and I think it's important to
Slacker.
talk about. Yeah, I think it's important to talk about. So these fish can go out to the ocean, come back, go out, come back, go out as many as 3 times, the biologists are saying. So these fish really can get very large. You get into that third trip back and forth to the ocean, we're talking some big, healthy, strong fish.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's super exciting. Again, guys, I want to thank you. We've had a ton of people subscribing from the Northwest Trout Council edition of Fly Fishing Unfiltered.
We had 3 dudes come in today that specifically came in because they saw our YouTube video.
Oh, that's great.
So what we're doing here is resonating with people. I really just want to say thank you. I'm learning a ton of stuff as we're doing these videos. You guys know I bought this fly shop 2 years ago to save this fly shop, and there's a lot of things that I don't know about fly fishing. I'm a total self-taught hack. And so having the opportunity to sit next to you guys who are professional guides and you do this on the daily means a lot to me, but more importantly, it means a lot to our subscribers. So I want to thank you for doing this, for working extra shifts, doing this with us. One thing I want to say to you subscribers, this was strictly estuary fishing because this is the month of July coming into August. It's the primary time to fish the estuaries for Searun Cutthroats. We are going to be doing one on streams, and we will focus also on Washington streams and rivers as well. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button right there, because probably in the next couple of weeks we're going to film the next version, which is going to be streams. It's going to be rivers, and we're going to make sure the entire Northwest Trout Council is here, so don't be scheduling any casting lessons there, Spencer.
My bad.
Yeah,
Gotta make that money.
Yeah. But seriously, hit that subscribe button. If you are interested in Searun Cutthroat programs, again, I just want to give a shout out to these guys. They're here. They're passionate about fishing for trout, and they have some killer programs. So hit them up. You can hit us on Instagram. You can email the shop. You can call the shop. We'll put you in touch with them. Let's get these guys guiding on the rivers. Let's have you learn how to chase this species, which is totally unique. And again, we really appreciate you joining us on Fly Fishing Unfiltered, and we will see you next time.